Bring the court to order. We can get started with an opening prayer. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer to give prayer this morning? All right, sir.
Lord, first I just want to say thank you, Lord God, for this glorious day, Lord God. Lord God, thank you for your many acts of kindness, Lord God, your grace and your mercy, Lord God. Lord God, bless this court, Lord God, bless these people in the county, Lord God. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge to our flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Reflect that all members of the court are present with the exception of Commissioner Riley, who had surgery last Friday, so we'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers as he's recovering from that. Commissioners, we need a motion to approve the Commissioners Court agenda. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Proclamations and resolutions. We have 2 scholarship awards from our Employees Committee.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Lori and I are here with the Employees Committee to present our scholarships, and we're honored to do so. The winner of our Employee Dependent Scholarship this year will begin enrollment at Texas A&M University, pursuing a biomedical science degree followed by a master's degree in infectious diseases, with the ultimate goal of obtaining a PhD in oncology from Baylor University in search for a cure for cancer. Her passion for saving lives is an inspiration that fuels her very high academic achievements so far, and we can expect more good things to come. Please join me in congratulating our winner, Brittany Franklin, daughter of Melvin and Kim Franklin of the Sheriff's Department and District Attorney's Office. Mom and Dad are here. Yes. We are proud of you, girl.
Congratulations.
And now we want to present a scholarship to an employee scholarship. The winner of this year's employee scholarship is pursuing her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Phoenix. At a time that some might be considering early retirement, our goal-oriented award recipient is focused on broadening her career opportunities by attending college. After successfully raising 3 children, she is now putting on her own educational goals and plans to become a probation officer after obtaining her degree. Please join me in congratulating our winner, Sherry Guajardo.
County Clerk, Commissioners, we need to approve the Commissioners Court minutes from our session dated May 4th, 2015. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. On consent, Commissioners, I have 2 items to be deferred on page 4, item 9D2F, and on page 5, item 9D5 to be deferred. Other than that, there are no other changes. Unless you have any.
I move.
Motion is second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. The next item will be citizens' comments. We have quite a few people signed up to speak. We're going to ask that if you're all making some of the same comments, just echo those comments that we have a long list of people that have signed up. You read this little statement prior to starting. So we will now invite public comment. Please state your name and topic of your comment before beginning your remarks. Public comment may not exceed 3 minutes. Questions or concerns about operations of Montgomery County programs may be referred to the department heads or elected officials. The Texas Open Meetings Law prevents the court from deliberating or taking any action on matters raised in public comment. So with that said, our first person.
Before we get started, I'd like to just say something real quick. In today's world, we have longer bridges with shorter tempers, wider freeways but narrower viewpoints. We have more schooling but less sense, more knowledge, less judgment, more experts, yet more problems. We've been all the way to the moon and back, but yet we have trouble finding common ground to solve today's problems. We meet more, we accomplish less. We have a multitude of media available for communications, but we communicate less and less with one another. These are the days of big government, little personal responsibility. We talk too much, don't listen enough, anger too often, forgive too little, and we pray too seldom. Over the weekend, I read a monologue George Carlin wrote. It made me think of this great county and the people we serve. I used his form and some of his words, and then I tried to make it more applicable to this court and our great county. We all want what's best for this county, yet sometimes we may not always agree on what is best or how to get there. There's been a lot said over the last few months that has divided this court and this county. If we can accept differences and find common ground, there's nothing that together we cannot accomplish. I'd like to start by leading by example. Judge, when I work with you in the budget meetings, I enjoy it. We identify common ground and are working together for the betterment of Montgomery County. And Commissioner Metter, in your 20-plus years on the court, you've transformed North County and made great contributions to our county as a whole. We may not always agree, but I certainly respect all of your accomplishments. And Commissioner Metter, though you're not here, you know more about building roads and the equipment needed than I may ever. Your steadfast determination is what earned you the seat that you now hold. And Commissioner Clark, your desire to forge alliances and build consensus may be exactly what this court now needs. So gentlemen, together we are the governing body of Montgomery County. We don't always agree, and we will not always agree, but our disagreement should always be philosophical in nature and not personal. We should always show one another the respect that each of us has earned. The people of Montgomery County are counting on us.
As our comments are made today, I hope we would all keep that in our thoughts, that we would be respectful, that we would be courteous to those that are around us, and express our opinions in a very positive manner. So, with that said, the first person on the list to sign up to speak is Mr. Troy Stuckey.
Members of the court, guests, I've been a resident of Montgomery County for 17 years. The past 15 years, the county has seen phenomenal growth from one end to the other, north, south, east, and west. We have a new water park being constructed on the east part of the county, a new Blue Jack golf course on the southwest part of the county, several master plans in South County and North County. The growth is phenomenal, but the people have spoken. No road bond, just like they spoke in 2005. Without road bonds, we are at a hindrance. Without that, we do not have the mobility and we do not attract the commercial, industrial companies that we need to help offset the homeowner's tax burden. Most people don't quite understand that. In this last road bond issue, there was a lot of propaganda out there. A lot of people thought the rail system that's been coming through is part of this. It's not. There's a lot of false things were said. Not sure how it got out there or why, but it's there. But again, the people have spoken. The San Jacinto River Authority seen some of this growth coming, and they're ahead of the ball game on establishing a water program so we can have water, but yet our roads are lacking. I do think in the near future, we will need another road bond issue set up for the voters to vote on. But we need to educate the people on what they're voting on, not just they can throw a thing out there for them to say, well, we need it now. If we do have a road bond issue coming up in the near future, I suggest that the court consider doing it in 2016 when we will have a better voting capacity. 3 of the precincts offered basically a tie vote for or against. 1 precinct was majority against. That precinct is one that's pushing for a vote real quick. I just ask you to consider things to be done in a timely manner where we can have a better voter turnout and have everyone be able to get out in their precinct and educate the people in their precinct what we're voting for, not a propaganda issue that's thrown out there. I thank you for the short time. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, Mr. Stuckey. Next person signed up to speak is Mr. John Nix.
Hi, Commissioners. I just wanted to, to let you, to request that you do the bond, but remove all the maintenance projects like ditches in the East County and remove special interest roads like Cecil Bell's Old Hockley Road or the Developers Woodlands Parkway Extension. I would like to see roads like 242 worked on, and also TRA 2 east of 45, and I'd also like to see 1488 at 2978 expanded, adding a couple more lanes to relieve the bottleneck traffic and roads like that. It wasn't on the plan. I would also like to have more on the plan before, and I would also like to have more and more transparency on it. Nearing the time, me and others have asked to say where the figures were an 8% growth or 11.4 or whatever, but that was never provided. So, and I'm going to be here, so I was paying for roads that it's going to be on 30 now, I'll be paying off till I'm 60. So I'd like to have more transparency in it and remove the maintenance roads project, put that separate, but to have a good thoroughfare plan in place, then come out to the voters. Do whatever you have to do, just would not like to have this Woodlands Parkway extension, and would like to have 1488 at 2978. Riding is one of my main areas I'd like to see the court do for the next road bond. Thanks so much and have a great day. And I hope Commissioner Riley gets feeling better.
Thank you. Kevin Williams.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm a resident of Precinct 2. And first off, I'd like to echo everything that Commissioner Nowak said. I think we have a perfect opportunity here for more communication, more leadership, not just from commissioners, but from the various citizens groups all over the county, and I'd very much like to see that happen. We had about 60 days from the last meeting we were here. We heard a strong consensus, if you exclude the folks that were on the bond committee, of the citizens who spoke. They spoke 2-1 against the bond package that was voted on. When people say we want no road bonds, what the voters were saying is, we don't want that package. We just heard there is a need. Certainly we all agree there's a need. I'd like to propose that they begin right now. We have 168 days between now and November 3rd. It's 5.5 months. You can do it 2 months, you can do it 5.5 months. And what I would encourage all the precincts to do is very much like what Precinct 3 has already done. Have a series of public meetings where the citizens can identify their needs, prioritize them, and say, this is what we want. I think there's plenty of time to do it. We can't have it both ways. Say, we need roads, we need roads. Oh, no, wait, we don't need roads. We do need roads. But we need a different set of bonds, and we need it proposed from each precinct where the people can come forward with a more realistic and get something that'll pass. And I trust county judge and the commissioners will provide that kind of leadership that we would have this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Sheldon.
Good morning, my name is Chuck Sheldon, Precinct 3 resident for the past 7 years and a Spring resident for the past 40 years. I'm a retired city employee, and I know a lot of waste that goes on in city government. I've witnessed it through my career. I think we can do a better job on a road bond. We've got quite a few thoroughfares that are in sad shape or need to be fixed. They're no longer a FM farm to market road anymore. They're a major thoroughfare for our community. So I think we can identify these, work up a good bond quickly, and bring it to the voters as soon as possible. Thank you.
Misty Odenwelder?
Good morning. As you've already stated, I'm Misty Odenweller. I'm a resident of Bender's Landing Estates in Precinct 3. As I stated to my neighbors, no one wins when a road bond fails. Instead of dividing us, you have paved the way for us to unite. We intend to make sure we get a road bond with revisions back on the ballot in November 2015. This road bond didn't fail because of Bully Woodland's voters, but because of a bully court. We are becoming more educated as voters and are more determined to make this county gain mobility fiscally responsible in a fiscally responsible manner. Here's what you need to know about us. We plan to inundate the editors of the Chronicle, Impact, and Conroe Courier with a letter writing campaign of our desires. We plan to attend meetings of all types all over the county and educate and unite more voters. We also plan to pack the room each meeting signing up to speak until you finally decide to listen to the people that have voted you into those seats. We put you into them and we can vote you out. Many of you have deep pockets and a machine behind you, and yet you are still barely elected. This will not happen again. This plan will work because we are standing together. Now, what we expect from you. We need to truly start prioritizing all the mobility needs of our county. We need to pick the most pressing needs all over, not just a few in each precinct. We need to use the mobility study that was done by HGCA for Commissioner Nowak and Precinct 3. And we need to finally see this thorough plan that you, Judge Doyle, told us over and over exists, but few of us have seen. Upon doing this, we can prioritize countywide all the needs and they are great. We need this on the ballot in November. Next, no longer will maintenance projects that have a lifespan less than its useful life be included in bond elections. A sinking fund should be created so that down the road we will have funds to pay for this and taxpayers do not have to finance these necessities longer than their lifespan. Lastly, we expect the court to contact HGCA for a full county mobility study for future road bonds beyond 2015. What a novel idea to actually be one of the fastest growing counties in the state that will actually do what it takes to bring home our tax dollars and matching funds to our county. What reason could you have to argue against this point? Let's get something clear. We are not mad at the road bond passing or failing. We're not mad. We are mad at the members of this court attempting to capitalize the desperation of these voters. How silly of you to tell the media that you need to see what the voters want. You know exactly what they want. It doesn't meet your goals. You woke a sleeping giant. Tired of traffic? Yes. But we can and will make a difference together. Get it moving with only a few months delay because we are united. As a county, we will work together for something, the same thing, mobility. How about joining us in that effort?
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brian Christ, and I am here to speak about some of the comments I have read in media regarding the timing of a proposed resurrected road bond. I think that one thing is clear is that the voters were unhappy with what was put before them. I have also spent some time engaging with folks on social media to understand what was it about the bond that was distasteful to them. And yes, some folks disagree with the Woodlands Parkway extension, but I also talked to others who simply didn't want to spend any more money. They were unconcerned as to whether a road was going to be built. I spoke to some folks that I know personally that were simply misinformed. Two friends of mine voted no on the bond because they thought the Central Railway project was attached to it. I believe there's a litany of reasons why folks voted against the bond, and I won't belabor that. What I would do is I would urge caution in putting together another road bond. I wouldn't rush in haste. I looked at the voter turnout numbers and they were absolutely abysmal. And my personal opinion is that the 2016 primary will be a high-profile primary. And I believe that it will get people out to vote who wouldn't normally vote. And so I simply urge caution in putting together a road bond proposal that people can get behind and do so in a fashion that, and in a time frame that allows the people to be informed about what they're voting on and agree to what they're voting on. Thank you very much.
Penny Benbow.
Good morning. My name is Penny Bimbo. I live in Spring, Texas, in Bender's Landing. And some of you may have heard me talk here in the court today for the bond in the beginning, but that was truly before I got educated. And two things I'd like to say real quick too. When Commissioner Nowak was addressing you guys at the court, I really admire you, Jim Clark, for looking at him and just listening to what he had to say to you. That's just showing a sign of respect. Very disappointed that you guys just didn't, Mr. Meter, didn't even just pick up your face and just listen to what Mr. Nowak said. And I would just like you guys to think about that if we're going to try to work together. Also, I'd like to address the abysmal question that was just said. 16,000 voters voted in this election. This was not a big election. This was about a school in Magnolia and a road to the county. 16,000 people, guys. That's not a small turnout. That's the largest turnout ever. And that's because we're fired up. I've never come up to Commissioners Court to speak about anything but this issue because this is wrong. We got it wrong, but we have an opportunity to get this right. And I want to work with every single person. I care about Magnolia. I care about Willis. I care about all of you guys. I'm not here. I live in Spring. I don't live in the Woodlands. Irrespective of the Woodlands Parkway extension, we got the bond wrong, but we can get it right, guys. We really can. And I'm going to go over a little bit because none of that was scripted, but I did write something down, okay? If you'll bear with me just for a second, please. Commissioners, judge, and fellow concerned citizens, we're here today for one reason, because we care about Montgomery. Judge Doyle, I totally agree with your statement you said earlier that we need to pass a road bond because we're a growing community. Waiting any longer will lead to further gridlock and slow our economy. We want to be a constructive part of the solution. Every single one of us can be part of this solution. And working the polls May 9th, I was there all day. I asked the voters on the east side, would you have a problem with voting for a bond and a school bond and a road bond on the same ballot? Overwhelmingly, the answer was no. The voters understood the need for both a well-thought-out road and school bond. And we wanted to support physically sound bonds. We want it. I will vote yes for a school bond and a road bond on the same ballot this November if they're smart spending. We need to be good stewards of our money. Irrespective of the Woodlands Parkway, we cannot continue to put maintenance and operation in a bond. A sinking fund, like Misty Odenweller said, is a long-term
Ms.
viable
Benbow.
solution.
Ms. Benbow, the 3 minutes are expired, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Amy's gonna be keeping time for us, so if we could keep them to 3 minutes, I hate cutting people off like that. Mr. Dennis Tibbs.
I just went and checked on the AC, I wasn't walking out on it. Keep it right the way. We're working on it.
Good morning, guys. Dennis Tibbs, Precinct 2. And we all know that we'll have a bond again at some point. And we've been told that county debt is inevitable. But I looked at a state map yesterday of county debt in the state of Texas. And there are a whole bunch of counties that live debt-free. So I know we can't do that now, but somewhere down the road, that ought to be a long-term target of ours, not just more debt, more debt, more debt. And the thing that I would say about the past bond, although I was against it because it was more debt, I tried to give it a fair try. And I looked at the projects listed, and I tried to drive some of those roads, and there are a lot of them that are described so poorly that you can't even find which projects they are. So if we're going to look at those projects, we need to have better descriptions of where those roads are and which part of those roads they're going to be working on. Thanks.
Brian Crumby.
Good morning. Commissioners, thank you for listening. I hope this exchange helps. My name is Brian Crumby. I'm a resident of Magnolia area. I'm precinct 2 as far as commissioners. I'm a Republican precinct chairman for my precinct, voting precinct. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and I look to him for guidance and direction in this complicated world. I offer my opinions to the court regarding the recent road bond. Number 1, the road bond failed, in my opinion, because the planners of it failed to listen to the ultimate decision makers, the voters. Several months ago, I heard a portion of this road bond presented to a chamber, and the chamber was told they had to be behind it, this road bond, and support it, or the county would suffer as a result. I didn't hear listening, I didn't hear anything. I have not heard any focus groups other than the committee, or any community feedback other than this debate on the election. Any new committee needs to include people from various factions that make up our community. Those who select the committee need to resist the temptation to select those who will be agreeable to their way of thinking. Number 2, the county needs a long-term road plan and a debt payoff plan. I agree with Dennis that we need to look at other ways rather than debt to accomplish what we need. Number 3, I've heard the complaint that Montgomery County Tea Party is against the residents of Magnolia. This statement seems preposterous to me, since of the 9 board members, 2 are residents of the Woodlands and 5 are residents of Magnolia. Number 4, some people are not willing to hear what others are saying because they do not trust the intentions. They are so committed to some aspect for or against this bond. Let's bury any hatchets out there and listen to other views on this issue and try to make some progress with this and other problems. Number 5, a $350 million debt a bond is a lot of debt. It's almost doubling our current county debt, which is on top of our school, city, state, federal debt hanging over our paychecks. If we're going to get out of debt, we should not fix roads that have 10 to 20 more years of life of them, or add a foot of shoulder to it. These really don't help much with ability. Number 6, if we want to be wise with the wisdom that comes from the greatest book of all time, we will do as much of our road improvements with income we have and not add to our current debt. Number 7, from everything I gather, Rayford Sawdust is the worst road situation in the county. I rarely drive it. If this is something that most people agree on, then I would propose we tackle the worst areas now, not wait for months. Bonds, setting votes, discussion. If that's pretty clear, let's get it done with money we have. From what I can gather, our county revenues...
Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Jean Mann. I live in Precinct 2 of the Woodlands. The bond election demonstrated without question that people from diverse communities can come together for a common cause. The cause being that we need a county-wide mobility study to show, to tie everything in, to benefit all in the county. A road bond with no waste, with no maintenance, no Woodlands Parkway extension, and I find it hard to believe that $60 million in this last bond proposal was set aside for maintenance projects. This is what our property taxes and our county taxes should be going for. It's like you're double dipping us here. So let's take that out, please. To not have a plan by this November shows complete negligence of this court. We need to move fast because the county is growing, as you said. The Woodlands Parkway extension does not need to be in the new road bond plan. It was shown in the mobility study is not needed for many years. It goes into an unpopulated area, which we need to focus on our populated areas where people live at this time and get those roads moving. This corridor is already at maximum capacity, and to add more traffic to it would be irresponsible. My request to this court is to develop a transportation plan that prioritizes the needs of everybody in this county and to have it on the ballot by this November. Remove wasteful spending, Woodlands Parkway extension, and maintenance. This county has united in purpose to say what we want. Now we need you commissioners to unite and come together for our wishes. Do what you've been elected to do. Remove the WIIFM and be leaders. Thank you.
John Works.
Judge, Commissioners. Morning, I'm John Works, Precinct 2, also vetting committee chair of Montgomery County Tea Party. Several weeks ago, many of us, representative of the silent majority, not the minority, pleaded with you not to pass this patchwork bond. We gave you the reasons why, that only 40% were good, representative of the South Montgomery County Mobility Plan primarily. Unfortunately, 60% was poor, split between $80 million in maintenance and operations, and the rest in special interest favors, including Woodlands Parkway extension. A record-setting 28,000 voters turned out to vote May 9th, and 16,000, 58% were against it. Gentlemen, it was a landslide against it. While roughly 10,000 out of 12,000 voted against the bond in the Woodlands area, 6,000 outside the Woodlands voted against it. You have said throughout this campaign that the bond is needed and wanted in Precinct 2. The voters of Precinct 2 turned it down, and with 51.4% voting against it. Precinct 3 defeated it overwhelmingly, almost 75%. Precinct 4 passed it by a single digit with 50.5% to 49.5%. Are you sure the voters of Precinct 2 and the rest of Montgomery County really want this bond unchanged? Or is this something you, a single commissioner, Riley, which we hope he's feeling better, and the county judge, without the votes to back it up, want? Also, in tallying up the campaign finance reports, we see the special interest spent over $1 million over the last 2 years to get the judge and the commissioner elected and to push this bond and future bonds through like this. And it still didn't work. Once again, we ask that you listen to we the people. We ask that you move post-haste on the priority of projects that are listed in the South County Mobility Report immediately and complete the HGAC countywide thoroughfare plan currently in the works to address the rest of the county's needs. Thank you very much.
Bob Evans.
Good morning, I'm Bob Evans, I live in precinct 2. I wanted to address a statement that was attributed to the judge, that it was difficult to understand why the bond election failed because there were many different reasons given as to why, people's opinion as to why it failed. $350 million is a lot of money to spend. I worked for ExxonMobil for 37 years, and ExxonMobil wouldn't spend $350 million without a project plan. If a project plan was put in place for this bond election, what would that look like? In my opinion, what it would look like is we would create a countywide mobility plan, as was done in Precinct 3. We would prioritize the road improvement projects based on need from that plan. We'd vet the list with county governments and with the residents to ensure there weren't any unintended consequences. We'd create a fiscal economic analysis of the county's finances, which would include the current debt, projected income and expenses, the proposed road bond, and what wasn't included in this analysis was what about future road bonds and future bonds such as the jail. So how does this all help? Well, this would allow each of you to justify the proposed projects that you're putting forth. It would allow justification or an alternate approach for maintenance. It would allow all stakeholders to have input, and it would provide a clear understanding of the debt and the tax consequences of a road bond. If project planning like this is not done, what happens is we end up with many false starts and stops, wasting time and wasting money. In 2011, the road bond failed because of a lack of project planning, and in my opinion, in 2015, the road bond failed because of a lack of project planning. I think doing everything I'm suggesting is going to take longer than November, but I do think that it's possible to do all of this by May of next year, and I hope you'll consider that. Thank you.
Pat Tibbs.
I'd like to echo John Works.
Thank you. Lori Clifton.
Yes, Commissioners, my name is Lori Clifton, and I'm a resident of Precinct 2. I had a whole lot to say with a whole lot of backup, but I just want to thank you, Commissioner Nowak, for what I would consider an apology for inviting us. And I hope that now we can truly work together. And with that said, I am asking the court that you look at this road bond and you look at it for November of 2016. What I also heard is that people are saying that we need a mobility study. You know, we have one mobility study that was $500,000. And how many hundreds or millions of dollars are we going to spend for another study when you guys are all elected and you know what we need to do within our precincts? You know, we may need a study, but I have a problem with a couple $1 million being spent on another study. With that said, I believe you commissioners have been elected by the people. You know what needs to be done. I am asking you to work together. And I'm asking you to be fair to all precincts. When the money gets divided, it may need to be divided by 4 to make sure that all precincts get a portion of the money. And again, I just ask that you work together and we wait until November 2016. Thank you.
Dale Plessy.
First of all, thank you for allowing me this time to speak. Many of the comments that I had were echoed by others, so I'll not repeat those. Dale Fessenden, Precinct 4. And the main thing that I would like to add to the comments that have already been suggested is we want you to succeed. We want to be behind you. We want to rally behind you and say that this court is doing exactly what this county needs. And the comments that have been given here today are some good suggestions to move in that direction. And when you all get together with a new road bond committee, then that's what we will hope to see as the outcome. We want to be there saying, go commissioners. Thank you very much.
Sherry Fessenden.
Again, I agree that a lot has already been said, but gentlemen, the people have spoken, and they did not like what they saw. As I walked across this country, county to work against the road bond, I did not hear one single person say they did not want a road bond. They just didn't like the one you came up with. They didn't like the fact that there was too much pork in it. They didn't like that there was no state or federal money for the most part, didn't any evidence that was in there. It's just a whole lot of little things. It wasn't because they don't see the need. They wanted something different. And there's a lot of things that have come out today to challenge you. I worked hard, not as hard as a whole lot of other people, but for me, it was a hard work to try and convince people to vote against it. You come up with a good plan, I'll work just as hard for you to help it pass. But if you come up with another one that smells like this one, I'm gonna work double what I did last time to go against it. So we want something that's good and fair and that we can live with. None of us want to be taxed out of our homes, and that's where we're headed very fast. If we keep building up debt and stuff, we won't be able to afford to live in our homes. So I challenge you again, get a good mobility plan. Get a comprehensive 5, 10, 20 year down the road what's needed. No pork. You've got to have something that you join in with the other neighboring counties. Transparency and no funding of repairs. There's got to be a better way to do that. So I just ask you again, like everyone else has, would you please come up with something good that we can stand behind?
Laura Theo.
I want to say thanks to whoever turned the air conditioner back on, because that's awesome. Someone's dying over here. Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Laura Fio. I live in the Woodlands, Precinct 3. Over the past 4 years, or 4 months, thankfully not 4 years, we've been wrestling over road projects targeted for improvement and one new road. I'm here as a citizen of Montgomery County to outline a road band I would willingly support. First and foremost, take the proposed Woodlands Parkway extension off. If, as you have said, the developers are willing to build the road, then let's let them. When their roads are finished from 249 eastward and possibly from 2978 westward, then I support connecting those two roads using county funds. Next, road maintenance is the primary function of the county. Funding road rehab through a bond is tantamount to dereliction of duty. The fact that each precinct can only rehab 10 miles of road or so per year says that our budget needs to be reprioritized and some hard choices need to be made. I understand that the county needs to catch up with road rehab. I am willing to consider some road rehab in the bond if the critical mobility needs are met first. It is not acceptable to agree that people who did not vote should take preference over those who actually stood in line to vote. By September 4th of this year, please approve a bond that the majority of the county will support. Take the Woodlands Parkway extension off. On this point, I won't yield it. Using the recent road bond lists as a starting point, conduct open meetings involving the citizens affected in your precincts and ask them what they think needs to be fixed and by when. Create a road bond with citizen input that addresses our direst needs first. Commissioner Nowak, you know what priority South County has, as you did before. Please just continue following the South County Mobility Study. Add funding for a true countywide mobility plan that addresses the next 30 years, that includes HGAC and the voters. As I heard repeatedly at forums, in newspapers, and on social media, Montgomery County is in desperate need of a road bond. Voters are obviously paying attention, as we saw with the overwhelming turnout this past election on a mostly one-issue vote. Waiting a whole nother year is not acceptable. A bond that leaves out the Woodlands Parkway extension, addresses the highest priorities of the entire county, includes citizens in the process, and funds a study to address our entire county's future needs, is a bond I would gladly support. Thank you.
Thad Wiesnack.
Judge, Commissioners, my name is Thad Wisniak. I'm a resident of the Woodlands, Texas, and I've been there for 22 years. I have 4 boys who are 6th generation Montgomery County. If you don't think I don't care about Montgomery County, you're wrong. And I've got to tell you, I'm somewhat embarrassed at all of the rhetoric that I've heard from you, from all of us. It's ridiculous. We need to realize that an effective leader is a leader who does what? They build consensus. All of this pitting one group against another group to push your agenda is not going to work. We have gridlock in our federal government. We have gridlock in our state government. Cannot we just come together, please, and do something for the citizens of Montgomery County? I echo all of the sentiments that everybody in this room has undertaken it to come up here, take time, and give you with respect to the road bond. Gentlemen, those who do not plan to what? They plan to fail. Failure to plan to fail. I've got a son who was just inducted as an Eagle Scout, and they talk about 3 different types of leaders. You've got the leader who sits there and tells you what they want done, how they want it to be done, and how to do it. Then you've got the leader who does what? They build consensus. They ask the people, this is what we need to accomplish. How are we going to come together to accomplish that? What ideas do you have? Because they may be better than mine. As I said in a post that I put on Mr. Nowak's page and on Mr. Bunch's page, this is a representative democracy. That means that you represent the people out here. You need to work together to come up with a plan. And taking your toys and going home because you're mad because you didn't get to play the game you wanted to play is not an effective leader, period. And I'm not singling anybody out. Everybody is dealing with this. I simply want all of us to build a consensus. Waiting till November to put this bond back on because you think you can shove it down our throats again is not going to work. I echo the sentiment. As hard as I worked this time to oppose this bond, I will work 3 times as hard not to have this bond passed. If all you do is put it in the pot, stir it up, and throw some salt on it, it's not going to taste any different to me. I'm a little bit more sophisticated than that. With respect to the people in this room, it is very clear that everybody here wants a road bond. Everybody here agrees that there are certain things that are priorities. Why can't we accomplish those now? If it was an emergency a couple of months ago, how did it suddenly become not an emergency now? I don't understand it. Because it doesn't make sense. Because it's not the truth. Thank you.
Bill O'Sullivan.
Good morning, gentlemen. Bill O'Sullivan, Woodlands, Texas. Now that we have spent the money on a bond election that could have begun to unravel our mobility problems, its failure and apparent waste of those funds bring us here to do better for our voters and listen to them. I say apparent waste because we learned a lot about the shortcomings in putting together the bond, and we can learn from this and put forth a new bond that truly deserves support. The Woodlands Parkway extension must not be funded by the new bond. 2, the new bond needs to be put to the people for a vote this November. 3, the new bond should contain the funding needed for a hybrid mobility plan which would prioritize projects on a countywide basis and consist of a combination of the South County Mobility Plan and the county's thoroughfare plan. However, certain denser areas of the county may need the detail of the South County plan, such as Conroe, Magnolia, Montgomery, etc. These areas need to be identified and studies commenced. Since you're already working on the thoroughfare plan, there's not going to be a lot of additional expense to do this. Going forward, the county should no longer take out long-term debt for projects with a shorter life expectancy than the bond. For example, a road resurfacing that would only last 15 years would be bonded for 10 years. This should begin immediately. To eliminate the financing of road maintenance over time, a sinking fund will be created to be drawn down when pre-funded maintenance is due to commence. Pure maintenance projects such as ditch cleaning should not be in this bond at all. 7, all mobility projects on the current bond, say the Woodlands Parkway extension, should move forward, such as Rayford Road, the Nichols Sawmill extension, Robinson Road, 1097, 1488, 1774, 105, 242, and on and on. The monies currently set aside for the Woodlands Parkway extension and pure maintenance will be preserved and used for the top priority project in the new hybrid mobility plan. That should be within 2 years. It's time to end the rubber stamp committees and the bluster. Roll up our sleeves and get to work. We have an opportunity to turn our mobility plan ugly duckling into a beautiful swan. We should seize it. Thank you.
Christy Baker.
Good morning, my name's Christy Baker. I live in Precinct 2 in Magnolia. I am here also to discuss the road bond. There have been a lot of things said that I agree with and some that I disagree with, which have been kind of the story of this election. We have conflicting road studies. We have conflicting opinions on Woodlands Parkway extension. We have conflicting opinions on which baby bird in the nest should be fed first when the mama comes back with the worms. So I am urging you to please take time to sort out all of those conflicts. I also know that while none of us would like to be pregnant for 9 months to have a baby, it actually takes 9 months to have a baby. So there are some things that just can't be done quickly. There not only were $350 million worth of road bond money in this bond package, we also had Judge Doyle who had found $300 million in supporting funds. So we were going to get $650 million worth of road work done out of $350 million worth of road bonds. At this point, I'm guessing, Judge Doyle, we're probably not the safest bet for all of those government agencies who have sat with pen to checkbook ready to give us the rest of the money we needed to do our work, since it's been 10 years since we were able to get a road bond passed. So there were a ton of people in line behind us to take that money, and now it's gone. It's going to take you more than 5 minutes to convince those agencies that this time we really will take their money and we really will work on our roads. So don't rush it. It takes as long as it takes. Please get us a bond package back on the election when we can support it, when we can get it passed, when it is what everybody wants, and when we don't have to walk away from a 2-for-1 sale, which is what we just walked out on, and take a half-price sale. We need to get everything done that was on that list, and we're going to have some partners to get it done, so take as long as you need to make that happen. Thank you, sirs.
I'm Gordy Bunch. I was on the bond committee. I was the sole vote against this current bond, and I want to clear up my resignation. I got a lot of flack from people because I quit the bond committee. I resigned on the last day of the last committee meeting, so it wouldn't be confused that I supported something that I did not. That bond committee was immediately transformed into the political action committee that was going to propose the bond, and I did not want my name attached to that. I do represent the Woodlands, Texas. I want to clear some things up. I don't know anybody in the Woodlands, Texas that hates anybody anywhere else in the county. We love our neighbors. I was raised to love my neighbors, love my enemies, love people with dissenting opinions. So we do not hate anybody else in the county. We also are very unique in a community that we represent Precinct 3, Precinct 4, Precinct 2, and of course the county judge represents us. we're probably the only community that has 4/5 of the court elected by us. And as a community, we voted over 80% against this bond. In some sections of the Woodlands, almost 90%. To say that Woodlands Parkway didn't have an impact on the vote or the turnout is misguided. It just doesn't match up with the results. Yes, there were other issues raised throughout the bond, but the Woodlands, Texas biggest issue was Woodlands Parkway extension. We know that it's on the South County Mobility Plan, but not until 2025. We talk about having a countywide mobility plan integrated. That's how you get money lined up from HGAC. The matching funds comes from HGAC. HGAC spent $300,000 of the $500,000 on that plan. All the local communities within our plan contributed something. The township funded some, Conroe, Shenandoah, Oak Ridge. It's a shared expense. And because we all share the county, we should share the expense with HGAC on a countywide mobility plan. One that includes feedback from the community. Shenandoah, I know the mayor's here. Some of our biggest needs in South County are direct connect from I-45 to Research Forest. Shenandoah said they didn't want it. Guess what? It's not on the plan because that community had the right to say we don't want it. The Woodlands, Texas say we don't want Woodlands Parkway extended. And guess what? The borders of the Woodlands do go to the other side of 2978. It's still our community. We should take the feedback. We should have consensus. We have needs that are needed now. If it was that urgent 2 weeks ago, how is it not urgent today? I know we've had people say they worked twice as hard against or 3 times as hard against. I gave a lot of effort trying to make sure we had a bond we could pass. My representations were ignored, my advice ignored, my petition ignored. I would be happy to work with you as hard. Thank you.
Paul Edwards.
My name is Paul Edwards. I'm a resident of the Woodlands, Sterling Ridge Precinct 3. Thank you, Judge L, Commissioners, for this forum. I have to say, it seems to me Montgomery County and politics and government's alive and well. This is all good. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. You know, it's not. I mean, put things in perspective here. You know, we have a federal government that we have a president that is dividing this country, that is tearing apart institutions that need to remain if we're going to be whole, from whether it's our sheriff departments, whether it's these institutions that have worked perfectly for all these years. That's divisive. That's tearing things apart. This isn't tearing things apart. This is awesome. This is a community that is engaged. The debate is healthy. Nobody's trying to wreck the country. Nobody's trying to wreck Montgomery County, I don't think. I disagree with, you know, I have to say, you said we had 30 minutes, right? I was born in upstate New York. And, I was born in upstate New York, and when I say that I got here as quick as I could, I did. I was 18, I got here as quick as I could, against my parents' wishes. And, you know, when I heard that there was a hometown boy, Steve, I just, you know, what was it? Steve, we worked in the same place. We know some of the same people. We'd never met before until a few months ago. I wanted to meet him. We seemed to resonate on a lot of issues, and I messaged him. He responded back immediately. We've had a phone conversation, and we've been buddies ever since. And you know, he's kind of given me an opportunity to you know, just sit in and watch and listen and come to my own conclusion about these things, about this particular issue, this bond. And I just, and keeping things in perspective, again, it is really exciting to see the people, this room full of people. If not for the road, I met a hero of mine. He doesn't know it. the sheriff here, Sheriff Gage, I got to ride up on the elevator with him because of the bond, because of this bond issue. And you know, the consent of the governed is here. This is healthy. This is good. This is the way it's supposed to be. And I'm really proud to be a resident of this county and a citizen of this country. Mom and dad, you were born here. I always considered that the greatest gift that I'd ever been given was my citizenship in the greatest country that the world's ever known. And now I know that that's here in Texas that those things are taking place. I'm concerned about our national government. I'm concerned about our national politics right now. But I'm going to tell you something. Texas and Montgomery County is alive and well, and I'm glad to see this. This is great.
Ryan O'Hara.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Ryan O'Hara, 12914 Point Drive, Willis, Precinct 1, which you may know me more from my day job as an advisor for the county. Regarding bond issues, we can probably agree there's been a lot of information and misinformation with regard to the road bond election, but I just wanted to clarify one point. We try very, very diligently to match the useful life of projects with that of the bond life. And I just want to point out that over $100 million of this proposed $350 million road bond election had a weighted average maturity of less than 10 years. There was no deferral of principal ever proposed by us in our recommendations. I just want to put that on the record. We stand ready to serve this court and this community going forward and look forward to doing that. Thank you very much.
Mike Bass.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Mike Bass. I serve on the Woodlands Township Board. I'm also chairman of the Transportation Committee. And I serve on the South County Mobility Committee, and I've worked with Commissioner Nowak since the very early days of the South County's mobility study. As you've heard today, I think the road bond proposition failed for lots of reasons, not just the Woodlands extension, although that was Parkway extension, although that was a big factor. It's obvious many voters found something they didn't like in the road bond. But as Commissioner Nowak said, it's now time to put our differences aside and work together to develop a new plan, and one the majority of the voters will support. It's more important, I think, to have a good plan in place than to focus on the bond. Okay, the plan should drive the bond. Okay, not the other way around. So I think as you've listened today, you need to spend more time to fully understand why the proposition failed and what we ought to do different. First, although the county had a plan, many voters questioned that if it was the best plan, because the mobility studies were still underway and will not be completed until later this year. The South County Thoroughfare Study won't be completed until the end of September. Credence was added to this view. Okay, there are many unanswered questions that these studies would have helped answer. For example, in my community, if you look at the priorities, my community, people living in the Rayford Road Riley-Fuzzle corridor asked what other improvements could have been made and why more could have been done. Okay, so I believe that any future bond proposition should be fully supported by a comprehensive short and long-range mobility plan, one that fully considers the recommendations for the studies that are still underway. Second, we need to have a more understandable financial plan. And that goes beyond, includes debt, but should go beyond that. We need to have a plan for how we're going to fund mobility improvements, capital improvements as well as maintenance improvements. There were a lot of educational meetings that were held around the county, but there were still a lot of unanswered questions about debt particularly. Okay. Already heard the comment about the term of the debt, that there was a lot of this bond that was 10 years or less. But the other thing is, does the plan make maximum use of matching funds and partnerships? For example, the Riley-Fuzzle Rayford Road overpass, according to HGC, they recommended that could have been subject to state and federal money. It wasn't. If we had put forward a 20 or 30% match, we could have freed up $42 to $48 million to have done more work out of that.
east of I-45. There are a lot of projects, if you'll see in the South County Mobility Plan, that need to get done over there, north, south, east, and west. Third, the road bond brought the issue of how the community funds, how the county.
You're 3 minutes under 5.
Okay.
Betty Anderson.
I'm Betty Anderson, and I live in Precinct 2. I'm sorry that Charlie Riley isn't here today to hear what we have to say. I am a GOP precinct chair, Precinct 31. Our precinct, our voting box was 66% against the bond, the way that it was proposed. I'm also the president of Montgomery County Eagle Forum. I own 2 homes. I own one in Precinct 2 and Precinct 3 as well. My daughter's family lives in Magnolia, so I'm all over the county. My husband founded 3 successful churches here in Montgomery County, 2 Christian schools, and 1 graduate school. So I know a lot of people, and I spend a lot of time driving the county. So many wonderful things have been said this morning. I got a lot of flyers. Why we can't afford, why we need to go ahead and have a road bond. We can't afford the consequences if road bonds fail again. We need to pass these road bonds, and our quality of life will definitely suffer. So I'm just going to make a few statements here to summarize what has already been said. Number 1, we've got to have a complete mobility study. Thank you, James Nowak, for your study that we worked on. We need to revise the bond proposal and submit it again as soon as possible because it's so important, right? And I think we're all unified. I've heard no opposition about that today. I would like to see it on the November 2015 ballot. And thank you very much for your time.
Hi, thank you, Commissioners and Judge. I am Ken Vaughn. I'm a traffic engineer, but I'm here today as a concerned citizen of Precinct 2. I want to thank particularly Judge Doyle coming out after the election and saying that we need to go back and figure out what the voters want. I want to thank James Nowak for taking the leadership on that as well and saying that we need to be moving forward. I assume the other judges, I haven't seen quotes from you, but I assume the other judges are with open mind about this as well. I will say it is critical that before you start pouring concrete, you need to have a plan. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, is we're building roads, building concrete that's going to be there, essentially setting the precedence of where roads are for 100+ years. This is very critical to our community when you start talking about road design. That means you have to have a plan. It is true that this sort of planning can take some time. And it is a bit like being pregnant. But I will say this. You don't get pregnant unless you get started. So it can take more than 9 months. And one thing that struck me, just listening to all the comments here today, was everyone seems to be supportive of the concept that we need to be looking at our roads and that we need to go back and look at what we need to do to build consensus. Now, as part of my role in standards and stuff, I know consensus is very difficult to estimate how long it's going to take to get there. I think we can come up with something by November 15th. That would be great. But if not, why would we wait to get started on that process of building consensus? That's something that we can do today. Start a committee to build consensus that brings in the people who are against the bond, brings in the people who are for the bond, brings us together as a community, so we can build consensus together as a community. This does take time, but I think what we can do, what's an achievable goal, is $350 million was a lot. Maybe we can downsize that a little bit for November. Get something smaller that addresses the near-term critical needs. Remember, that $350 million, we all were told, was going to be phased out over 5 to 7 years. Okay, let's come up with a proposal that will do 2 to 3 years, so that in that time, we'll get a more formal, definite plan for the entire county. But there's definitely projects on the list today that we know are needed as soon as possible. Those we can get done by November. The rest of it we can get done on a later bond, 2 or 3 years from now, once we have a full plan for the county. So I urge you to get started immediately, and thanks a lot for your time.
Reagan Reed.
Morning, Judge and Commissioners. I thank you, Judge Joel, for your willingness to look at why this task bond failed and move forward and take feedback from the citizens. So I'm here, Reagan Reed, a citizen of Willis, to hear and just sort of give my feedback. And thank you also, Commissioner Nowak, as well, for your leadership on this. And I think your wisdom in bringing the community together is going to be critical as we move forward as a county. I find it somewhat offensive, the narrative that was spun, that it was just a small group of people in South County that were opposed to one of 77 projects on this bond. Because I can tell you from my own experience, talking to my family and talking to my neighbors, that it was about much more than just one project on this bond. One of the main concerns that we had up in Willis was the lack of planning. It's been 1998 since we've had a countywide mobility study. And in order to maximize funds from HGAC and other sources, we need to identify the projects and have concrete data, much like Commissioner Nowak did with the South County Mobility Study. So Commissioner Metter, I would like to see in our precinct study somewhat similar to that, and I would like to see one county-wide. I would also like to see with the next bond, the county utilize the major thoroughfare study, have that in place so we know where the projects are, and actually have the planning to do this bond. Second, one thing we objected to was the including maintenance in this bond. And Precinct 1, Willis, Montgomery, has probably more maintenance than any other precinct. One of the commissioner's main duties, according to the Texas State Constitution, is to maintain the roads. I think that needs to be a priority in the main budget. And if there's not money in the main budget, we need to sort of reprioritize so that there is, and we're not having to take out a 30-year loan for something that has a life of about 10 years. So finally, I had some concerns about the way the money was allocated. In Precinct 1, there was $11 million that was to be determined. Now, we did come out with the list during the early voting of maintenance projects that was included, but by the time I had voted, it was still to be determined. I think I would like to see some more transparency moving forward. Actually having the projects identified and not just a to-be-determined list. This maintenance money for the Woodlands Parkway, it could be put towards necessary projects like Burnham Woods and some areas there in the Rayford corridor. And so if we could reprioritize and actually have a bond that only addresses the necessary projects, I think it would pass overwhelmingly. So just one other thing. We need to come together. I didn't appreciate this county being divided over this bond issue. You know, Magnolia versus the Woodlands, Conroe versus the Woodlands. You know, I'm a citizen of Montgomery County. I care about Magnolia, Willis, Conroe, all areas. So let's come together. Let's pass the bond. Thank you.
Signed up to speak. Is there anyone that did not sign up that would like to address the court today before we continue? No.
Judge?
We need to hold up.
We've got 5 minutes.
I'm with you, Judge. No, I'm good.
You can put your 3 and 5.
Yeah, I'm good. Judge, Commissioners, thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I was gonna talk about why the bond failed, but just really in keeping, Commissioner, with what you started, I think, you know, this bond was put together in less than 3 months, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't put another bond together by November. By that time, and at the end of this summer, we're gonna have the HGAC thoroughfare plan. I don't believe that we need to commission a mobility study for the whole county as long as we have that thoroughfare plan that is going to be delivered to us by the end of this summer. In regards to the tip money, Lori, I would rather see us do a bond in November 2015 that's towards the beginning of the 84th biennium cycle as opposed to at the end of the biennium cycle for the 84th session when the money's already been committed and already given out. There's money. And we stand a much better chance of getting it if we hold a bond in 2015 rather than 16. Finally, while the state of Texas charges county court in how it handles the business of our county, we as citizens of the county charge you to maintain the unity of our community. And it's just really imperative moving forward that you guys set the tone for keeping us together and calling out bad behavior on either side when we move forward with this next bond. I hope we do it in November of 2015, but I ask adamantly, graciously, humbly, you help us stay together and maintain this great community that we love and look forward to living in for many years to come. Thank you.
We have one more person, I think, has their hand up.
I had to plan to speak, but I just heard a couple of things. I want to applaud the Commissioners Court judge for getting the process started. And that's kind of what we have here today is what's essentially amounting to a process. I am a licensed transportation engineer, so I don't want to get into the engineering aspects, but sometimes something as critical as take some iterations. I think that the information and the signals we got back from the public are well received, being processed. But there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. It doesn't matter if it's 6 months or 18 months. It doesn't matter if it's this November or 16 November, as long as it's accurate. This is a critical opportunity. If we hurry up to do it, what if it's wrong? It's an opportunity to get it right. Not at the expense of, hurry up, I want it now. I understand this process has been going on, but now with the information we're going to be getting back from everyone, it gives us the opportunity to digest that. I also want to mention on a countywide mobility plan, mobility study. We're talking about November 2015. A countywide mobility study is going to take a long time to get done and get right. It takes a lot. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but the logistics of it, it can't be fit in that time. But again, you know, without any animosity from both sides, I think we have an opportunity. It's taking our time to get the plan right, not rushing.
Any other comments? Well, we need to change the tape. Give us just 5 minutes. We need to change the tape real quickly.
It seems to me that the most sensible thing to do, we already have the South County Mobility Study. I'd like to see us take that study. I live in Precinct 2. I'd like to see us widen it to 242, which was on the study. Some of the 1488 projects that are on the study. Why don't we use the study we had in Precinct 2, Precinct 3, get those projects started, get them going now, and then come back if we need to do another bond in next year, then do that. That seems to make a little bit of sense. Use what you've got in the mobility study now, take care of those problems, that way you're getting something done. Thank you.
Judge Doyle, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Joe Lobenstein, and I'm in Precinct 2 also. I just want to say that I know you've looked at other funding, especially from the state, and I'm involved with some of the TxDOT initiatives. And as we all know, Proposition 1 was approved by the state of Texas, which gave $1.7 billion from the severance tax of oil and gas. Also, right now, our government, state government, is going to approve $2.5 billion additional to TxDOT's $8.7 billion operating budget. That's a lot of money. Governor Abbott is fighting for $4 to $5 billion for Texas roads. So not only do we here in Montgomery County have issues, the entire state does. So I just want to encourage you to look at that funding, because I think some of those roads to bypass 1488, 2978, I think some state money can be accomplished and get it and reduce the cost of the bond. We need the bond issue. There's no question. Thank you.
My name is Jim Doyle. I spelled with an L-E at the end. I'm the precinct chair for the Republican Party in precinct 56. I live in precinct 4, Commissioner's Precinct. It's been said that there are people who, nobody here opposes a bond issue. Well, I do, because I think we are spending too much money already. We need to finish what we started, maintain what we have, and pay off the debts that we already have before we, at least way down, before we start spending more money. With the federal government as it is, destroying the value of our currency, destroying the credibility of good government, and destroying the Constitution, there is no sense in trying to spend more money now. And on the state level, I think the state needs to do the same thing. They need to act as if we're going to lose it all if we don't start paying our bills off and getting out of debt. Just like as an individual, we should be getting out of debt as well. And no new taxes. Well, we may have to have something to pay off the debt. You know, I wouldn't mind paying more to pay the debt down. But as far as building new roads that aren't built already, let the developers do it if they want to do it. But the taxpayers, they shouldn't be burdened with more. And that's about all I got to say.
Anybody else would like to address the court before we move forward? Just want to make a brief comment. We've heard a lot of comments today, and I agree. You know, there's been obviously the Woodlands Parkway was an issue, but the bond barely passed in precinct 4. So there are other issues that we need to address. We need to talk to the people in those communities and find out exactly what the concerns were about the bond and why it didn't pass, or why it passed so narrowly. The spirit of cooperation, I think, is critical moving forward. I think it is time to come together, but we got to come together realistically, folks, and understand that we need to listen to the financial advisors when they tell us things, because I saw numbers out there that said we had close to $1 billion in debt. That simply wasn't true. So we need to, in the spirit of cooperation, we all need to play fair with each other and make sure that we're telling the truth out there. And we listen to the professionals that advise us on this matter, that we listen to the engineers that talk to us. We do have a major thoroughfare plan. The last time it was updated was 2012. It's currently under update now, and that issue is one that we'll look to and we've used in the past to build roads and preserve right-of-way corridors. So we've got to understand that there is reality out there. There are plans out there in place. We can't just say there's not. But we also need to listen to the people in each of those communities that have concerns with it. And so in that spirit of cooperation, I would ask that it go both ways. That we not put out false information, that we not create things that don't exist, and we admit that there are things in existence that are in place as far as our major thoroughfare plan. So moving forward, I think that we can get there. We do need a bond issue, but we need true cooperative effort on both sides. And I would encourage that, and gladly participate in that myself.
And Judge, just kind of on that note, I think that's very well said, and I'd like to suggest the idea of us having a series of mobility workshops here in this courtroom, where we're sitting up here, we have the citizens coming in, and we're listening to what they have to say, and we craft the bond, we craft it right here together for all of us.
Do that, or go to the area, 2 different areas. You need to get more participation out either way. I don't have any problem, but I think it's about the time that we do take into account those concerns and we begin to move forward, but move forward realistically. Even realizing that I've got a TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, did a survey of some of our county roads. This was back in 2008 with a maintenance recommendation of several $100 million to maintain existing roadway. I mean, Woodlands Parkway and Grodin's Mill alone was about $70 million. those are the kind of maintenance issues that we cannot address out of this budget. And there's no set aside funding that we can set aside a sinking fund for to address $70 million on 2 roads alone. We're gonna have to find another way to get there, or the roads that we do have are gonna deteriorate to a point that repair on those roads is just prohibitive. And then we end up reducing the ability for people to move around if we let those roads deteriorate. So we've got to address all of those issues as we move forward in a very realistic manner. So to say maintaining our existing infrastructure is poor, I think is counterproductive to what really needs to be done. When you have professionals telling us we need an aggressive maintenance program that our current budget just simply will not address. So we've got to find ways to do that. And if it's through a bond issue, we need that cooperative spirit as well in those matters. So, Commissioner Snyder, anything? Commissioner Clark? All right. Moving forward with the agenda. Item 11A. Consider and approve a resolution authorizing myself to execute necessary documents for the purchase of 20 cemetery plots as needed for indigent burials. Sorry. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Item B, consider and approve the memorandum of understanding with Children's Safe Harbor for multidisciplinary team enhancement programs and authorize myself to sign the document.
Sir, may I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good morning.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to quickly thank you for the opportunity to stand here, and actually on a day when we're talking about collaboration, this is a great moment for me to stand here, and thank you all. Children's Safe Harbor has an opportunity to have a special staff member added to our staff with a special dedicated fax line and a special dedicated email line so that we can see all of the needs of the children that are coming to our county as part of the CPS intakes. So this expansion of our multidisciplinary team program is just a proactive strengthening and allows our center to create and continue to use the tools of our communication and our coordination. It doesn't change our protocol, it doesn't change our work at all, but it offers us an opportunity in our county to actually have a bit more understanding of the need of all of the children coming both to the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and Chicago Police Department. So, sir, we have asked and I've sent the agreement. I also am required to have the actual sheriff's signature on this document, sir. And Mr. Lambright, Mr. Ligon isn't here, I could go get his. If it is all right with you, sir?
Is there any funding requirement?
No, it is totally, the state is offering Children's Safe Harbor a full-time staff member. But it doesn't come through you, it comes through me, but agreement to continue our work together, if that's all right with you, sir.
If not, I believe we're good to go. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for what you did.
No, thank you. So may I ask for their signatures? It will be all right.
Absolutely. Emergency management. Thank you.
Morning, Judge and Commissioners. I'd like to ask the court to consider and approve the final 2013 ENGLE-MONTGOMERY grant, that's Management Administration Grant, adjustment notice. The scan will close the grant and de-obligate the remaining $3,166.09 and authorize Judge Doyle to sign the agreement.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries.
12B would like to ask to consider and approve the final 2013 LETPA grant adjustment notice. This again will close this grant and de-obligate the remaining $22,536.99 and authorize George Doyle to sign that agreement.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Morning, Judge, Commissioner. On 13A, ask you consider and approve interlocal cooperation agreement between Montgomery County, Texas and Walker County, Texas for the provision of detention services for jail inmates.
Second. Is that just to set up any need?
Yes, sir. We talked to Walker County, they're close and give us a little better deal than the rest of them.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna ask. I think it was a lower rate and
Yes, sir.
even medical included possibly?
I don't.
We can find out, but anyway, I think it's great, and thanks for your hard work in helping us how to alleviate the situation we have in the district.
Motion to second, all in favor? Thank you. On to our executive airport, Scott.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Consider and approve a revised site development plan for HPD Hangars LLC hangar development at the Lone Star Executive Airport. If you approve this, we'll return in a later court with a lease amendment that will reflect the changes.
Motion to second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Auto theft task force.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. The first one's easy. I'm requesting that you accept and approve a resolution allowing the Montgomery County Auto Theft Task Force to apply for an Auto Burglary and Theft Prevention Authority ABTPA grant fund for 2016-2017.
Is there a match?
Sir?
Is there a match to it?
Yes, sir, there is, and I was going to talk to y'all about, because there was some questions from your office, Judge, about how this happened. Montgomery County Auto Theft Task Force has been in operation from 2094 to present. Our program areas Grimes, Walker County, San Jacinto County, Polk County, Trinity County, and will probably be added in Madison County to our program area. From the inception, we've recovered approximately 15,188 vehicles from theft and covered over $186.5 million worth of vehicles and property. The staff is consistent of a lieutenant, sergeant, 5 detectives, 1 detective from Grimes County, and 1 analyst. There are currently 4.5 grant positions and 4.5 paid Montgomery County positions. Our duties include in conducting investigations into auto theft, auto burglaries, vehicle arson, carjacking, cop shops, 68A inspections where they come to do trailers, cars coming in from out of state, cargo theft, title fraud, salvage yards inspections, junk yard inspections, and public awareness events. Our funding, or the portion of the grant that we're asking for, comes from ABTPA, which is Auto Theft Burglary Prevention Task or Prevention Authority. Those fees are deducted from everybody's insurance policy of $2 per insurance policy per year. The House gets that money, it goes into the state general fund, and that's where ABTPA gets their funding. In 2015-2016, the cash match for Montgomery County Auto Theft Task Force was $485,994. It was about 62% of the budget. Funded by the grant was 38%, or $391,074. If approved, our plan, or the next portion of what I'm going to be asking for, is we are planning on increasing our program area. We're planning on adding 2 detectives from other counties, from San Jacinto and Walker County. The sheriffs on both those counties are on board. The funding will come from the grant. We will be adding 2 grant positions. Those fundings will come from the grant itself, not to cost the county. They will provide car, vehicle maintenance, and cell phone. We will provide office space. They will work out of our county for 2 days or 3 days a week. They will work back in their original county for 2 days a week. We will have 6 grant-funded positions, 5 Montgomery County-funded positions. I'm asking the court in our proposal that's coming up is to take 0.5% or half a person and move it to the county budget. That cost is approximately $30,500. We've been over the numbers with the auditor's office. They are all signed on board. The sheriffs of each county have talked with my boss, the sheriff, and they're all on board. So that's kind of where the cash match is.
So we'll be creating a half a position?
No, sir. There is already we have a position that is half funded by the county now and half funded by the grant funds. We are just asking that the county absorb the other half of that grant position.
We realize 5 officers total.
There'll be a realization of total of 6 positions that are grant funded and 5 positions that are funded by Montgomery County. We are funding 4.5 at this point.
One of the second paragraph, Joe, it says that you requested Montgomery County provide $500,000.
Yes, sir.
Is that out of That's not out of.
That is y'all's cash match from the county. That $550,734 is what last year's budget for us was, or the cash match was, plus additional, whatever y'all decide the benefits and salary raises and all that come into effect, plus the $30,000 for the half a position.
What you're asking for is an additional $30,000 to accommodate a half position to be funded, fully funded by the county.
That is correct.
I asked you for $500,000.
No.
No, sir. Basically, my understanding of the process, I'm asking for you to approve a resolution to allow me to apply for the grant. Our proposed grant is also listed on here. For that purpose, we have it together so y'all can see what y'all are signing off on. We have letters from each of the sheriffs saying they will participate.
Normally, before we put a new position in place, we want to do that at budget time, but that position's already there.
That is correct, sir. The reason that we're doing it now is the state's budget runs 1 year offset from our budget through the county.
All right, we have a motion. Second.
I was just going to comment that normally this is built into the budget, and that's why it comes to you now. So the funding that was part of the 15 budget was about $485,000. What's being requested now is the $550,000. That's to pick up the other half of the position that he's discussing. I believe that the total grant is still also growing a little bit, and that more funds are going toward operations from the city as opposed to the funding of the position.
That is
what's orchestrated with this proposal.
So how much actual additional funding is being requested? Is it 80,000 or 40,000?
I thought it was $485,000 last year, and then the request this year was $550,000.
That is correct. Our request for this year is $550,734.
So about $65,000 more total.
Okay, so the difference in last year's funding and this match is this.
Is approximately $65,000, that's correct. And it's not just a function of the half position. Part of the challenge there is that the grant caps the benefits at only 25% of the position's salary. And so we don't do it at an exact percentage. We have some finite costs, and then some others are percentage-wise. And so some cap out, and the county has to pick up a bigger portion of the benefits.
And why can't this Wakefield Electric area?
Because our budget year runs 1 month prior to the county's budget, the state budget grant funding position.
But typically this is handled during the budget hearing, so I'm confused on.
Typically, we do include it in the budget. And so, but Norm, when is your application period for this grant?
The application period is coming up May 22nd, if I remember
And
correctly.
so that's the problem. They don't want to apply for the grant, and the county might not fund it through the budget, and they've applied for a grant where there's no funding.
And we have to have y'all's approval prior to submitting our grant for the grant purposes.
So it's 485 that was already in place.
In our
We've got
current, yes, sir.
550, so
Yes,
that's
sir.
65. $30,000 of it is to fund the half position, and the other $35,000 is to offset the added benefit costs
The
for all
benefit,
positions. Is that correct?
that is correct. The benefit, whatever the salary and benefits addition is for the new budget year, plus $30,500 for that half position.
And it's changing the program, you're picking up 2 deputies from other counties as well.
Yes, sir. That is if the state of, and this is all in limbo or flux because we have to find out what the grant is actually going to give us, and we'll be back here telling you all the final numbers.
Could this grant be submitted the same way it always has been?
Why is it coming in?
Yes, ma'am. It will come back to y'all with current funding, but I have to be able to apply for it. And this year they have changed the way grants are applied for. We have to have a resolution from them, or from the Commissioners Court, saying that we are allowed to apply for it. That way I don't have to, let me rephrase that. The budget or the grant funding application date was changed this year. We usually go to each one of the counties, get a resolution from them, and then come back to y'all, or come back to the court. At this year, we have to do it a little differently because the date was moved on us, and that was through ABTPA. They changed directors. The final budget will come back before you when we reconcile with the auditor's office what the grant is actually giving us and what we're actually on the hook for. The worst case scenario that I see at this point is the $550,000, which is about $65,000 over what last year's grant was. but we will be back here once the grants are awarded at the end of the month. So we'll be back here.
And at that time, so could the Commissioners Court here make their decision on that application at that time in a month?
I cannot have them, it's my understanding that I have to have the resolution first. I have to have the resolution first.
The one thing I haven't heard is what's the grant amount we're applying for?
The grant amount we're applying for is 300 and, hold on. What is, I don't have that number. Oh,
The total amount's $1.3 million.
the total amount of the grant is $1,300,915. Of that, Montgomery County is requesting Montgomery County $550,734.
So can, Phyllis, is there $65,000 somewhere in the sheriff's budget that we can use to make up this difference? And we have to, I know there's unspent salary dollars. Oh, this is going to be for
Next year's budget.
I still, there's no way we can defer this until next court, or, and why would we? June 1st.
Let's move the date to 22nd.
When did they move the date? Because it's kind of last minute for.
And that was for us also, the grant was moved early on in the year. I think February or March is when they told us we had a couple months to get everything together. So
It might have been easier to come to us sooner. For these. I mean, it's something we need. It's $65,000. Mike, you made the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that is the first part, allowing us.
Don't ask for anything.
That'd be great, though.
Remember funding source?
Well, it's for next year's budget. It's for the 16th budget, so we'll just allocate this.
All right.
The second part of this is to approve and accept the 2016 grant submission application to the ABTPA for a total project cost of $1,304,915. The Montgomery County Auto Theft Task Force is further requesting that Montgomery County provide $550,734, which will cover the salary and benefits for the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office employees assigned to the task force. The remainder of the funding will be covered by the ABTPA grant.
So that just moves this grant forward.
That is correct, sir.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion
I
carries.
thank you for your time.
Come earlier next year.
I promise I will.
IT, Marshall.
Watch your head.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Item 16A, consider the following effective June 1st, 2015. For closing position 503-5413-1, open position 503-5512-2, and transferring the funds from the one to the other.
And this is for,
It's a promotion. We have a retirement coming at the end of the month of May, and so this individual's receiving a promotion with a new title.
and this is,
Moving up.
Sir?
You get somebody moving up to the retirees position?
Well, we had to create a new position to move the individual into. PDQ's been approved by HR. And then we will address filling the existing position a little different.
does it affect next year's budget then? So we're
No.
going to be increasing that?
No.
Motion is second. Second. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Thank you.
All right. Tax assessor, Tammy.
Good morning, afternoon. Item 17A, consider and approve the transfer of $60 from the funding position to line item 4994073-1 to bring the position to the minimum of that salary grade.
Move.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion.
Item 17B, consider and approve budget amendment for tax assessor collectors department, transfer $1,440 to line item 4997419 from line item 4997390.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
17C, consider and approve and authorize me to execute an engagement letter on behalf of Montgomery County with Seatbelt Lawson Moeller for QuickBooks consultation services. Estimated cost is not to exceed $1,440, and the funding is to come from the above line item.
Questions, comments, all in favor? Motion carries.
Item 17D, close the following positions, open the listed positions, and transfer the funding accordingly.
Second.
And this will not affect the current budget.
Talk about that. All in favor?
Thank you.
Library.
Good morning, gentlemen. Before you are the nominations from 2 commissioners to fill seats on the library board. In A, we would ask that you consider and if appropriate, appoint Arthur Breedhoff to represent Precinct 2 on the Library Advisory Board for a 4-year term, May 2015 to April 2019.
Entertain motion, A and B.
I move on A and B.
Second.
The other appointment is Janet King.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Election. Susie.
Good morning. Please consider and approve an order canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the May 9, 2015 election.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The first item before you is a request to consolidate 25 part-time shelving clerk positions into one pooled position at the Memorial Library. This would help eliminate some of the needs to bring individual items for some equity adjustments or some hour adjustments for minor amounts of money.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
The next item is a request for you to consider and approve naming a funding source for $5,348 to the district attorney's office. This was an omission during the budget process where they were having some needs for vehicles and equipment for those vehicles. We financed the vehicles and we omitted including the equipment for those vehicles in the budget. We made a mistake.
Second.
I need a funding source, please.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Purchasing.
Morning, Judge and Commissioners. Item 21A, I would like to present the recommendation and contract for item number 1, Mission Northeast New Warehouse Facility to MJR Services, Inc. in the amount of $464,250 in CCD.
Second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Item B, consider and approve utilizing the contract with Ramco Equipment Company, LP, for the purchase of one 2014 Blynox rubber tire asphalt paver and the attachments to the interlocal agreement with Byboard in the amount of $179,211, precinct 2.
Thank you.
City Treasurer wants to
Who's gonna get it? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Attorney. Griffin.
Morning, Judge. Item 22A, consider and take appropriate action on granting the proposed conservation easement on 3 acre tract of Spring Creek Greenway, Body Land Conservancy.
Move. And just on that, motion, Phyllis, that when the monies come in from Body Land Conservancy, we'll just deposit those into the Spring Creek Greenway Professional Services line item. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we need to recess our Commissioners Court and convene a public hearing. We have several public hearings. First is the district clerk.
here to request that the commissioners approve the district clerk's proposal for the technology fund archival plan for 2015-16.
Move. Is there anybody here to discuss that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's precinct 1.
Commissioner, did you want me to do that for you?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Consider approved partial revision of Lakewood Farms, Lot 5, is known as Lakewood Farms, Lot 5, replat number 1. This is a replat of an existing lot in older subdivision. All notices have been sent and posted. We've received no comments back. All the letters have been sent, and there is no active HOA.
Do we have anybody here to discuss that this morning?
Excuse me, can you describe that a little bit more clearly? We live right in that section. What exactly are they going to do with that piece of property? Do you know?
I don't have the plat right in front of me.
Right.
I don't know exactly, but I believe they're replatting it.
Yes.
I can't tell you exactly what the replat is. Replat's available. We have it in our office.
The notice that we received indicated that they were going to have a building lot.
I believe they're
And what
changing
was
the building lot.
And what was the other portion going to be used for, do you know?
No, but with regard to use restrictions, the county does not enforce restrictive covenants. The replat will have no change on the restrictive covenants if there are any restrictive covenants regarding the use of that property. This is solely to change either the building line or some other aspect of the lot itself.
Okay, so it's just to make that building lot available.
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else have any comment? That's all.
Consider and approve establishing a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on Davis Road. Anyone here to speak about that?
I think we will reconvene our commissioners court, take action on those items.
Did we do that? I moved on 23, as you can see.
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. County engineer.
Judge, I think that item was.
Oh, that's what we just did. Okay, got it. Thank you. All right, there's no need for executive session today, so we will not have to take for that agenda item. 26, 27, human resources.
Please consider and approve the payroll change request forms.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about? All in favor? All right.